If you've ever tried cannabis and thought, wow, that was way too much, I did not like that experience, that was so overwhelming, or conversely, man, that was really disappointing, I didn't feel anything at all, I didn't feel any effects, there was nothing that happened, you're not alone. Finding your ideal dose can be really challenging, and it's one of the things that separates a experienced consumer from someone who's newer to cannabis. Being able to effectively get the dose that you need without having to run a whole bunch of experiments because you know what's going to work for you at that given time is one of the hallmarks of an experienced cannabis consumer. And it's not about getting high, right? It's about getting aligned. It's about really understanding what the outcome and the effects that you're seeking are and getting your experience right with whatever you're ingesting or inhaling or whatever it is, so that you can really get the aligned experience you're looking for. So today I'm going to show you how to dial in your cannabis dose so that it supports your body instead of overwhelming it, or conversely, not giving you anything at all. Hi, I'm Tabitha Fritz. I'm an intentional cannabis educator, and I'm the founder of Level Up. I help people use cannabis not just to feel better, but to live better. That's the whole point of what we're doing here. And over the past few years, I've taught hundreds of both new and experienced consumers how to find their ideal dose, the dose that works best for their body-mind connection and for their own energetic clarity. You don't want something that's too much. You don't want something that's too little. So we're going to help you find exactly what it is that you're looking for. So in this video, we're going to cover three main things. Number one, why your ideal dose is unique and what factors shape it, right? Everybody's ideal dose is unique. It may be unique in a moment. In other words, what you need right now might be different than what you need 5 weeks down the road or tomorrow or in 6 hours or whatever it is. So how to figure out what that dose is exactly and what factors are going to shape that for you. The second thing that we're going to talk about today is a simple method for you to find your personal dosage sweet spot. So it can be challenging or overwhelming to start from the beginning and figure out what's working for you. So I'm going to give you a framework to do that so that it's easier. And then the third thing that we're going to cover is how you can use dosing as a tool for intentional living and body awareness, something called interoception, which we'll talk about what that is. So those are the three things that we're going to cover in today's video. So let's start with the biggest myth of all. And that myth is that your dose should be based on how high you're looking to get. Okay. Now, if that's the outcome that you're seeking, to get as high as you can, and that's really the only thing that you're looking for, then that is absolutely going to be a factor in figuring out the dosage of the product that you're consuming. But actually, your ideal dose in general is going to depend on four main factors. Number one, your unique endocannabinoid system sensitivity. Now, your endocannabinoid system is something that all mammals have. And in fact, some other creatures have it too. I think they discovered it in fish and maybe birds, but like different creatures on this planet all have an endocannabinoid system. And the purpose of the endocannabinoid system is to regulate your body. It helps you maintain homeostasis in your body. It keeps everything balanced. It keeps everything flowing. It keeps you copacetic. It keeps everything happy and good and going. And the way that the endocannabinoid system does this is by facilitating communication between different body systems in your body, right? So if you think about the systems in your body, you've got lots of different systems. We have our skin. Skin's a system. Skin's a really important system. It's the biggest system, the biggest organ in your body, and it's an elimination organ. So when you sweat, you're releasing toxins. It also helps you to regulate your temperature, right? By sweating, helps you cool off if you're too hot. It's also a protective barrier. It keeps, bacteria and germs and viruses and dirt and stuff out of your body. And it's self-healing, right? It takes care of itself. So your skin is a really cool organ, and it's a really important system in your body. Now, let's take another important system in your body. Let's say your heart, right? Your heart is the organ that pumps blood all around your body. It's the center of your circulatory system. It's the organ that ensures that your blood is flowing and that all of the resources your body parts need are actively flowing around your body, and that your body can get it by getting the blood, getting things from the blood. So let's say you are running a marathon, right? And your heart is pumping and your blood is flowing, but your body's starting to get overheated. Your heart notices that you're getting overheated and it's getting a bit more challenging to deliver the resources around your body. So it needs to communicate with your skin to say, hey, I need you to start sweating so that we can cool this person down so that I can work more efficiently in the body. Well, your heart or your cardiovascular system and your skin, they don't speak the same language, right? They're two different systems and they don't always translate. What they have to say to each other doesn't always necessarily translate, right? So the endocannabinoid system, which is a series of different portals and molecules that fit into those portals or those receptors all around your body in every tissue, the endocannabinoid system sends molecules out, and then they go into the receptors and the portals, and it creates this communication between your body systems. Well, that's the whole purpose of the endocannabinoid system in a nutshell. It facilitates communication between your body's systems so that you can maintain homeostasis, so that your body can stay happy and balanced and working. Okay, so what your endocannabinoid system needs in order to do that is going to vary. You have natural endocannabinoids in your body. Your body already produces natural endocannabinoids that work with this system and facilitate that communication. We can also consume phytocannabinoids, which come from light through the cannabis plant, and that allows us to interact with that system as well through those different molecules. Okay, so we can introduce new molecules through cannabis, CBD, THC, CBN, CBG, all those cannabinoids interact with your endocannabinoid system. So the sensitivity of your endocannabinoid system in any given moment is going to be a major factor in how a certain dose of cannabis is going to affect you. If you're feeling very sensitive to THC, then a larger dose will affect you more strongly. If you're feeling not very sensitive to THC because of the conditions in your endocannabinoid system, then you won't be as affected, right? So that's number one, your endocannabinoid system sensitivity. Now, the number two factor in figuring out your ideal dose is going to be your current tolerance, right? If you've been consuming cannabis edibles at night to help you sleep in high doses for the last 3 months, your dosage is going to be higher than someone who has not consumed cannabis at all in the last month, right? Obviously, that makes sense. So that's another factor that you need to consider when you're figuring out what your ideal dosage is going to be in any given cannabis setting or cannabis experience. If you have a higher tolerance, you're probably going to want a higher dosage. If you're someone who has not consumed a lot of weed before and you have a low tolerance, you want a lower dosage. That's pretty basic. There's not a lot of nuance to that one, right? So tolerance goes up, dosage goes up. Tolerance goes down, dosage goes down. The third factor that you're going to want to consider when it comes to figuring out your ideal dose is the consumption method. Okay, so edibles, smoking, tinctures, topicals, we have all these different consumption methods and they are not the same when it comes to dosage. We measure dried bud as a percentage of THC. So the THC is presented as a percentage of weight. So if you see a THC percentage, let's say that's 25%, then that means that 25% of that 1 gram bud is THC, which would be, I don't know, grams are, if 1,000, never mind, it doesn't matter. But when you're thinking about dried bud, you're going to want to think about the relativity of the percentages, right? So a 25% THC weed is going to be stronger. It's going to be a higher dose than the same amount of 16% THC weed, right? So that's something that you have to consider. As well, like for edibles, that's totally different. So usually we start people off, if someone has a low tolerance and hasn't used a lot of edibles before, you want to start somewhere around 1 or 2, maybe up to 5 milligrams. If you're someone who frequently takes more of something than everybody else. If like you have that redhead gene or whatever, that things are a little bit less strong for you. So that's another point to consider. And when it comes to like a topical or something like that that's just going on your skin, dosage doesn't really matter nearly as much because you're not going to become intoxicated. You're not going to have too much and feel, overwhelmed, like you're having too strong of an experience. But the best way to figure out your dosage for next time is to think about how it affected you last time. Now, for women and people who experience a 28-day hormonal cycle versus a 24-hour one, like men, your hormonal cycle is going to affect your tolerance and the dosage of the products that you're consuming and how those affect you, right? When your estrogen is higher, THC is more effective. Like you can get higher when your estrogen is higher, like around your ovulation time. But when estrogen is lower, like around your period, THC does not affect you as much. You would be less likely to be high. So if you're interested in learning more about that, I have videos on the hormonal cycle and understanding how cannabis works with your particular hormonal cycle, whether you have a male or female hormonal cycle. I have videos on that for you. So you can go there and learn more about those. And so the ideal dose, so just to recap, the ideal dosage is going to depend on, number one, your endocannabinoid system sensitivity. Number two, your current tolerance. Number three, the consumption method that you're choosing. And then number four is your intention. So why you're choosing cannabis at all? Why are you using cannabis? Now, like I said in the beginning, if your intention is to get high, if that's what you're doing, then you're going to choose a higher dosage, right? Like, and I say this till I'm blue in the face. There's nothing wrong with setting an intention to get high, right? Sometimes you can see things in a totally different way and you have a completely different perspective and it's fun and you can connect with people in a different way. And there are lots of reasons that someone would get high that are totally legitimate. So I'm not saying that there aren't, but that is only one intention for using cannabis. There's lots of reasons to use cannabis, right? So you might be using it for sleep. If you're using it for sleep, then you don't want to consume so much that you would disrupt your sleep. If you have too much THC, it actually affects your REM sleep cycle and makes it challenging to get restful sleep. So you have to think about that. If you're using it to treat pain, you can certainly have the wrong combination of cannabinoids that wouldn't help you treat pain necessarily. A lot of times people want to use CBD to treat pain, but that doesn't necessarily always work. You might need a little THC to go along with it. If you're using cannabis maybe to help you focus and meditate, right? If you're using it for focus, then you definitely want to make sure that your dosage is really low, because if you get your THC dosage too high, forget it. You're not going to focus for the rest of the afternoon. You're going to be off in the yard picking the dandelions and talking to the bees. So you want to make sure that when you think about what dosage of cannabis you're going to consume, you have considered your intention first. In fact, that might be the most important point of this or piece of this to consider. What is your intention? All right. And so, like I said before, people who are more experienced also have generally have a good idea about what works for them. And so if you're watching this video, I assume that you may be less experienced in figuring out what your ideal dosage is. And so one of the best ways to figure that out over time is to actually keep track of your consumption. You keep track of what you're consuming, of the dosage, of how it makes you feel, of what your intention was ahead of time. You can just write this in a notebook if you want to, or I have a free template and journal and like how you would set the whole thing up and how you would do the whole thing, and a printable download for you that you can download for free. It's in the description of this video. Please go grab that and use that and start keeping track of your cannabis sessions, because what that enables you to do is that over time you can look back and you can go, oh, that worked really well for me at that point, but it didn't work well for me over here. Or these terpenes make me feel this way, and I now recognize that every time I consume these terpenes, I start feeling anxious or relaxed or happy or whatever it is, right? But the only way that you can figure that out is to look at the patterns that occur as you're consuming over time. So please start keeping track of your consumption and seeing like what's working for you and how it's working for you. Okay, so like that's the fastest way to move from beginner to expert in understanding what's working for you and how you can use cannabis in the most effective way possible for your own health and wellness, right? Like that's what we're doing here. Intentional cannabis use is about therapeutic health and wellness ways to use cannabis. Okay, so beginners often follow someone else's dose, right? And that's one thing I don't want you to do. Just because I would take a certain dose does not mean that anyone else should take that certain dose. And just because your partner or your friend or someone you know or someone you saw online takes a specific dose does not mean that's the right dose for you. I explained about the endocannabinoid system. That is a unique system to every person's body within each moment. That changes all the time. What you need in one moment is totally different from what somebody else needs in a moment, right? Like, you would never want to consider what someone else is doing in order to figure out what's right for you. Comparison is the thief of joy, and it's the maker of a bad cannabis experience. Don't compare, right? This is your journey. You got to figure out what's working for you. Another mistake that beginners make is they treat it like alcohol, and that's not the right model, right? Now, a nano-infused beverage is going to have a much shorter lifespan of effect because it's made with nano infusion. That's a whole different video, and I can talk about that I will talk about that in another video about nano infusion and what beverages are and why that's a different experience and how it affects the consumer. But with the exception of those particular products that are nano infused, mostly beverages, cannabis is not like alcohol. It's not, a quick experience. It's not like you just keep adding it on and you have sort of the same feelings over time. It's very different, right? I'm not going to villainize alcohol. I like a glass of wine, just, as much as the next guy, but it's very different from cannabis. So as a beginner, don't expect it to be the same, and don't expect that if you have a high alcohol tolerance, like you can sit and slam 10 beers or something, it's not going to translate to cannabis. That it's a different system and it's going to work differently with your body. So don't equate the two. They're two totally different molecules and two totally different experiences. And then the third thing that beginners often kind of overshoot when they're trying to figure out dosing is that they chase an effect instead of listening to their own body, right? So they are looking for a high or an experience or a certain way of feeling instead of going, what is my body telling me right now about seeking that effect or about seeking that feeling or what I actually need to feel good in this moment, right? So cannabis is a highly intuitive medicine, and it works best when you listen to your body and let your body tell you what it needs from the weed that you're going to consume. So if you're a beginner, the real the thing that we always say, and it's sort of a cliche, but it's true, and we keep saying it because it works, is start low and go slow. So if you really have no idea what kind of dose to start at, and when you're thinking about an edible, you want to start, I said, 1 to 2 milligrams, right? You want to start with something very small, figure out how that works for you, figure out how that makes you feel, and then build up from there. If you are going to start out with some dried flower or a vape pen, you want to look for something with a lower percentage of THC. Definitely under 20%, maybe even lower, like 15, 16, or even lower if you can find it, until you understand what those effects are going to be like. Also, if you find something that has a more balanced THC to CBD ratio, that's going to help modulate those effects of THC as well, because the CBD works with your endocannabinoid system in a way that's a bit different from the way that THC works. So it helps to reduce some of the strong effects of THC. All right, so really the best advice is to take it slow, journal, keep track of everything that you consume and how it makes you feel, and then reflect on that over time, right? Once you have a few weeks or a few months worth of experiences that you can look back at, take a look at them, see what's working for you, see what has helped, and see what it is that you maybe want to change a little bit, right? Remember that dosing isn't about just milligrams. It's really about messaging. Sending messages to your body. And every time you consume cannabis, you're sending a signal to your body. And that signal can either help you tune in and slow down and connect with yourself, or it can overwhelm you. So that's why dosing is the foundation of intentional cannabis use. You want to make sure that you are having an experience that allows you to tune in and connect with yourself, with your higher power, whatever it is, instead of overwhelming you and making it challenging to even exist in that moment. So I would challenge you to try this, right? So for 1 week, download the free journal tracker in the description, or just keep track of it in a notebook, right? Like write down your mood, your energy level, and any physical sensations that you feel before and after you consume cannabis. Write down what kind of cannabis you consumed. And then after not very long, probably after a week, you should be able to see exactly what your body's asking for. And it will also tell you what it doesn't need and what it doesn't want. But you just have to learn to listen and pay attention. So if you want more support dialing in your ideal dose, beyond just the free tracker that's available, I also have a course that's available in the description called The 5 Dimensions of a Cannabis Experience. And that is all about examining cannabis through different lenses and how it affects you, and really becoming a more intentional consumer so that you can use cannabis to do what it is that you want it to do. You can use it as an effective tool to get your shit together, to live the life that you want to live. Because at the end of the day, that's really what we're all trying to do, right? Live our best life. So cannabis can be an effective tool to help you do that. And understanding dosing in a way that works for you is one of the best ways for you to be able to use cannabis as that kind of effective tool. And if you're really struggling with this or having challenges, just remember, your body already knows its ideal dose. Your job is just to get quiet enough so that you can listen in and hear. I'll see you in the next one.